Let me ask you something. Why do you feel the need to be nice? Why do you think tiptoeing around women, seeking their approval, and bending over backward will somehow bring you fulfillment? Let's be clear. I'm not telling you to be rude, disrespectful, or unkind. No, what I'm saying is stop being nice. Stop operating from weakness, from insecurity, from this place of needing validation. Being nice is often mistaken for being good, but in reality, it is one of the most deceptive and self-sabotaging habits a man can have. When a man is nice, he is not operating from a place of strength, confidence, or authenticity. Instead, he is operating from a place of fear, insecurity, and neediness. He is not being genuine. He is being calculated, hoping that if he says the right things, agrees with the right opinions, and suppresses his own desires, he will be rewarded with approval, validation, and maybe even affection. But this is a weak foundation upon which to build any relationship, whether personal, professional, or romantic. A man who is nice is often walking on eggshells, afraid to speak his mind because he fears rejection. He hesitates to challenge ideas even when he disagrees because he is terrified of losing favor. He constantly worries about how he is perceived, adjusting his behavior to fit what he believes others want to see. This is not confidence. This is submission. This is living life as a servant to the expectations of others rather than as a leader who forges his own path. Niceness is rooted in a deep fear of confrontation. A nice man will avoid conflict at all costs, thinking that if he just keeps the peace, people will like him more. But here's the truth. Avoiding confrontation does not earn respect. It earns exploitation. People, especially women, can sense when a man is acting out of fear. They may not consciously analyze it, but they can feel it. They can sense that he is more concerned with being liked than with being true to himself. And that lack of authenticity is unattractive. It does not command respect. It does not create desire. It only positions him as someone who can be manipulated, overlooked, or at best tolerated. The irony is that being nice is often a dishonest act. It is a performance, a strategy to get something in return. A man who is truly kind acts from a place of inner abundance. He does not need to be validated, so he gives freely without expectation. A nice man, however, gives because he hopes to receive. He is transactional in his kindness, thinking that if he is polite enough, agreeable enough, and accommodating enough, he will eventually get what he wants. But this is not how relationships work. No one respects a person who is only generous because they are hoping for a reward. True generosity, true kindness comes from a place of strength, not from a place of weakness. And niceness is also a byproduct of low self-worth. A man who believes he is not inherently valuable feels the need to compensate by being extra accommodating, overly understanding, and endlessly forgiving, even when it is to his own detriment. He does not set boundaries because he fears that if he asserts himself, people will leave. He does not say no because he is afraid of missing an opportunity for approval. This is the mindset of someone who does not believe he is enough on his own. A man who respects himself does not feel the need to bend over backward for others because he understands that his worth is not determined by how much he sacrifices. A nice man is passive. He waits, he hopes. He does not take action unless he is sure it will be received well. He does not take risk unless he is confident he will not be rejected. He does not pursue what he truly wants because he fears the possibility of failure. This passivity seeps into every area of his life, his career, his relationships, his ambitions. It keeps him stagnant. It keeps him in a cycle of mediocrity where he is always waiting for permission to move forward. But the world does not reward passivity. The world rewards those who take what they want without waiting for approval. Women do not admire men who are overly nice. They do not dream about men who ask permission to be themselves. They are not drawn to men who suppress their own needs just to make others happy. What they respect, what everyone respects, is a man who stands firm in his own identity, who is kind but not submissive, who is giving but not desperate, who is strong but not cruel. A nice man confuses compliance with kindness. He thinks that saying yes to everything makes him a good person, when in reality it makes him spineless. He believes that accommodating every request will earn him favor, when in reality it makes him easy to overlook. He assumes that suppressing his own voice will make him more likable, when in reality it makes him invisible. Nice men are often the most resentful. They spend years bending, conforming, and sacrificing, only to realize that all their efforts did not bring them the love, appreciation, or success they hoped for. They feel cheated, they feel unappreciated. And instead of realizing that they have been living inauthentically, they blame others for not recognizing their efforts. But the truth is, people do recognize their efforts, they just do not respect them. Respect is not given to those who try the hardest to please. It is given to those who stand their ground. Women are not drawn to men who agree with everything they say. They are drawn to men who have their own opinions, their own direction, and their own sense of purpose. The moment a man stops being overly nice and starts being genuinely kind because he chooses to be, not because he expects something in return, everything changes. It is not about being rude. It is not about being mean. It is about being real. It is about operating from a place of self-assurance rather than from a place of fear. It is about understanding that true connection is built on authenticity, not on appeasement. A man who values himself does not need to prove his worth through excessive niceness. He understands that his value is already established, and he carries himself accordingly. Niceness is a mask. It is a strategy used by those who do not yet believe in their own worth. And as long as a man relies on that strategy, he will never experience the respect, admiration, or fulfillment he truly seeks. Negative feelings do not originate from external sources. They do not come from other people, from rejection, from circumstances, or from any single event in life. They come from within. They are generated by the mind, by deeply rooted insecurities, by the beliefs a person holds about themselves and the world. The mistake most people make is assuming that their emotions are a direct result of what happens to them, as if they are passive recipients of the way life unfolds. But in reality, emotions are a response to perception, and perception is shaped by internal narratives, expectations. A man who feels negative emotions towards women, towards rejection, towards being overlooked or unappreciated is not truly angry at women. He is angry at himself. He may not recognize it, but his frustration stems from unmet expectations, from the belief that he should be treated a certain way, that life should reward his efforts in a particular fashion. This belief is dangerous because it places his emotional state in the hands of others. It gives away his power. If he feels like a victim of unfair treatment, if he believes he is at the mercy of how others perceive him, he will continue to experience resentment, frustration, and disappointment. But the reality is that the source of these feelings is not external, it is internal. A man who ties his sense of self-worth to how he is treated by women will always struggle with his emotions. If he believes that being nice, being accommodating, or doing the right thing should earn him affection, and he does not receive it, he will feel bitter. He will begin to think that women are unfair, that they overlook good men, that they only want the wrong types of people. But this is a flawed perspective. The truth is, people are not obligated to respond in a certain way just because someone is kind to them. Women, like all people, are drawn to strength, to confidence, to authenticity, not to acts of service that are performed in the hopes of receiving something in return. The reason negative emotions persist is because they are not properly understood. When a man feels frustrated, insecure, rejected, he often does not ask himself why he feels that way. Instead, he immediately assigns blame to something outside of himself. She didn't appreciate me. She didn't give me a chance. Women don't value good men. These are the justifications the mind creates to protect itself from looking inward. But the real question should always be, why does this affect me so deeply? What is it within me that feels unworthy, unseen, or undervalued? Because if another person's reaction has the power to control emotions, that is not a reflection of them. It is a reflection of the man who allows himself to be controlled. Expectations are one of the biggest causes of negative emotions. A man who expects something in return for his kindness will inevitably be disappointed when reality does not match his expectations. He will feel slighted, as if he was owed something he did not receive. But the world does not operate on transactions of effort and reward. People are drawn to energy, competence, and certainty, not to someone who keeps score of how much they have done and waits for compensation. When a man learns to give without expectation, when he learns to act based on his own values rather than on what he hopes to get in return, he frees himself from emotional dependence on others. He no longer feels bitterness because he no longer ties his worth to outside validation. Rejection, which is often a trigger for negative emotions, is only painful because of the meaning attached to it. A man who views rejection as a personal failure, as proof of his inadequacy, will experience deep emotional wounds. But rejection is not a statement about a man's value. It is simply a reflection of compatibility, timing, or circumstances. A confident man understands that rejection does not define him. He does not take it personally. He does not allow it to shake his sense of worth. But a man who ties his self-esteem to how he is received by women will always struggle with rejection, because every no will feel like an attack on his identity. Resentment is another common negative emotion that arises when a man feels he has done everything right and still does not receive what he believes he deserves. He looks at others who seem to succeed effortlessly, men who are not as nice, not as giving, not as considerate, and he wonders why they are rewarded while he is ignored. This resentment builds over time, poisoning his view of relationships and of women. He begins to believe that the world is unfair, that women do not appreciate men like him, that his efforts are wasted. But the truth is that his efforts were never rooted in authenticity. They were rooted in expectation. He was not being kind because he wanted to be kind. He was being kind because he thought it would lead to a specific outcome. And when that outcome did not arrive, he became bitter. The path to overcoming negative emotions is not found in changing external circumstances. It is found in changing internal beliefs. A man must shift his mindset from one of dependence to one of self-sufficiency. He must stop looking for validation in the reactions of others and start finding it within himself. He must recognize that his emotions are not caused by what happens to him, but by how he interprets what happens to him. This realization is liberating because it means he is in control. He can choose his perspective. He can choose his response. He can choose to let go of expectations, to release resentment, and to focus on his own growth rather than on how others perceive him. Many men live in a cycle of emotional turmoil because they never question the beliefs that create their suffering. They continue to seek approval, to chase validation, to build their self-worth on unstable ground. They do not realize that the only way to truly be free is to stop needing anything from anyone. When a man reaches a point where he no longer needs approval, where he no longer ties his emotions to how others treat him, he becomes untouchable. He does not experience the same frustration, the same resentment, the same bitterness, because his value is no longer up for debate. It is already established within himself. Negative feelings lose their power when a man takes full responsibility for them. When he stops blaming others, stops seeing himself as a victim, and starts understanding that he alone is in control of his emotions, everything changes. He no longer reacts, he chooses, he no longer seeks, he creates. And in that shift, in that moment of realization, he steps into a new version of himself, one that is free from the emotional chains that once held him back. A scarcity mindset is one of the most damaging mental frameworks a man can have. It creates desperation, neediness, and a sense of lack that permeates every aspect of life. A man who operates from scarcity believes that opportunities are limited, that relationships are rare, and that if he loses something or someone, he may never get another chance. This belief system breeds fear. It makes him cling to situations that no longer serve him. It makes him chase after people who do not value him. It makes him accept less than he deserves because he is convinced that he will not find anything better. When a man believes that there is only a small amount of success, love, or happiness available, he starts acting as though he is in constant competition. He sees other men as threats rather than as equals. He fears rejection because he believes that if one opportunity does not work out, another may never come. He tolerates disrespect, mistreatment, and unbalanced relationships because he feels lucky to have anything at all. He becomes overly nice, overly accommodating, and overly eager to please because he thinks that if he does not prove his worth, he will be discarded. This is why so many men struggle with rejection. They see it as a final verdict rather than as a momentary misalignment. A man with a scarcity mindset believes that if one woman rejects him, it means he is not good enough and he may never find another chance. He internalizes it as proof of his inadequacy. He dwells on it, overanalyzing every detail, wondering what he could have done differently. This is not the mindset of a man in control. This is the mindset of a man who sees himself as powerless. But the truth is, rejection is not a statement about a man's value. It is simply an indication that something was not the right fit. A man who operates from abundance understands this. He does not fear rejection because he knows that there will always be more opportunities. He does not become fixated on one person, one job, or one outcome, because he understands that life is filled with limitless possibilities. A scarcity mindset also manifests in relationships. A man who believes that love is rare will hold on to the wrong people for too long. He will stay in unhealthy situations because he is afraid of being alone. He will tolerate disrespect because he believes that he will not find someone else who wants him. He will become needy, constantly seeking reassurance, constantly trying to prove himself, constantly bending to meet the expectations of others. This type of behavior is unattractive because it signals weakness. Women do not respect men who do not respect themselves. They are not drawn to men who lack confidence, who operate from fear, or who seem desperate for validation. They are drawn to men who know their worth, who are selective in who they allow into their lives, and who move with the certainty that they are enough on their own. The shift from scarcity to abundance is not just about thinking positively. It is about fundamentally changing the way a man sees himself and the world around him. A man with an abundance mindset does not beg for opportunities. He creates them. He does not chase people. He attracts them. He does not fear loss because he understands that something better is always coming. This is a powerful shift because it puts him in control. Instead of waiting for approval, waiting for someone to choose him, or waiting for the right moment, he takes action. He builds a life so full and so rich in purpose that he no longer worries about what he might lose. An abundance mindset is built through action, through self-improvement, through becoming a man of value. It is not about wishful thinking. It is about creating a reality where opportunities naturally come. A man who invests in himself, his health, his finances, his knowledge, his skills, does not need to operate from desperation. He knows that he is an asset. He knows that he brings value to the world. And because he knows this, he moves differently. He does not hesitate. He does not doubt himself. He does not waste time on situations that do not serve him. A man with an abundance mindset is not easily shaken. He is not thrown off course by rejection, by setbacks, or by temporary losses. He understands that everything in life is fluid, that nothing is permanent, and that as long as he continues to grow, his options will continue to expand. This confidence is magnetic. It draws people in. Women are naturally drawn to men who have choices, not because they play games or manipulate, but because they do not need anyone to feel complete. They are whole on their own, and this independence is what makes them so desirable. Most men never make this shift because they are trapped by their fears. They fear losing what they have, so they cling to it even when it no longer benefits them. They fear the unknown, so they settle for what is familiar, even if it makes them unhappy. They fear stepping into their own power, so they stay in the background, hoping that one day life will reward them. But life does not reward passivity. Life rewards those who take control, who build, who expand, who embrace uncertainty with confidence. The transition from scarcity to abundance is not an overnight process. It requires a fundamental rewiring of belief. It requires a man to look at himself honestly and ask whether he is truly living in a way that reflects his worth. It requires him to let go of the fear of loss, to stop seeing rejection as failure, and to start viewing himself as someone who is in demand. This shift is not just about relationships, it is about every aspect of life. A man with an abundance mindset does not settle in his career, in his friendships, or in his personal growth. He does not waste time proving himself to those who do not appreciate him. He does not lower his standards out of fear that he will not find better. He moves with purpose, knowing that he has options, knowing that he is the prize, knowing that everything he wants is already within his reach. Most importantly, a man with an abundance mindset is free. He is not held back by fear, by insecurity, or by the opinions of others. He does not operate from desperation. He does not seek validation. He does not hesitate to walk away from anything that does not align with his vision. This freedom is what makes him powerful. It is what allows him to move forward with certainty, to attract the right people, to build the life he truly wants. A man who fully embraces abundance no longer chases. He simply chooses. A man without self-respect is a man without power. Everything in life, how others treat him, how women perceive him, how successful he becomes, stems from the level of respect he has for himself. Self-respect is not just a concept, it is a way of being. It is in the way a man carries himself, the way he speaks, the way he reacts to challenges, and the way he holds his ground when the world tries to push him around. Without it, he becomes a puppet to the expectations, desires, and opinions of others. With it, he becomes untouchable. A man who lacks self-respect will always find himself at the mercy of external validation. He will constantly seek approval, hoping that others will give him the worth he refuses to give himself. He will tolerate disrespect, thinking that if he is patient enough, if he is understanding enough, if he just keeps proving himself, people will eventually value him. But this is an illusion. The world does not respect those who do not respect themselves. Women do not admire men who allow themselves to be walked over. No one values what is freely given without demand. Every time a man allows himself to be mistreated, every time he stays silent when he should speak up, every time he prioritizes someone else's comfort over his own self-worth, he is training the world to see him as weak. He is sending the message that he is willing to accept less, that he is afraid to take a stand, that he does not see himself as worthy of better treatment. And once that message is sent, it is nearly impossible to reverse. People will continue to treat him exactly as he has allowed them to in the past. The way a man demands respect is not through force, not through aggression, and not through empty bravado. It is through his standards. Standards are the invisible rules that determine what a man will and will not accept in his life. A man with self-respect has clear, unwavering standards. He does not tolerate disrespect. He does not entertain people who do not appreciate him. He does not waste time on situations that drain him. He does not lower his expectations just to fit in, to please, or to avoid conflict. Most men who struggle with self-respect do so because they are afraid of losing people, afraid of being disliked, afraid of standing alone. They confuse setting boundaries with being rude, as if asserting themselves is somehow offensive. But in reality, setting boundaries is the ultimate form of self-respect. It is the act of saying, I value myself too much to accept anything less than what I deserve. And the moment a man starts setting boundaries, he will notice an immediate shift in the way people treat him. Some will resist, some will test, and some will even walk away. But the ones who stay will be the ones who truly respect him. Women especially are naturally drawn to men who respect themselves. It is not about looks, wealth, or charm. It is about the way a man carries himself. A man who respects himself does not beg for attention. He does not need constant reassurance. He does not tolerate being strung along, played with, or treated as an afterthought. He does not place a woman on a pedestal and hope that by being extra nice, extra giving, or extra accommodating, he will be rewarded with her love. He moves with confidence, knowing that he is the prize, knowing that his time, his energy, and his presence are valuable. A man with self-respect never settles. He does not settle for a job that drains him. He does not settle for friends who do not uplift him. He does not settle for a relationship where he is not valued. He understands that walking away is a power move, not a loss. He understands that rejecting what does not serve him is the quickest way to attract what does. And because he refuses to accept less, he naturally attracts more. The difference between a man who is respected and a man who is overlooked is simple. The respected man does not compromise on his worth. He does not negotiate his value. He does not allow temporary emotions to dictate permanent decisions. He does not chase after people who are indifferent towards him. He does not waste energy on situations that do not align with his vision. Self-respect is not just about how a man interacts with others. It is about how he interacts with himself. A man who truly respects himself does not engage in destructive habits. He does not waste time on meaningless distractions. He does not neglect his health, his goals, or his personal growth. He takes care of himself physically, mentally, and emotionally. He invests in his development, knowing that his future depends on the actions he takes today. Most men fail to develop self-respect because they are too focused on seeking external validation. They look for their worth in how others treat them instead of in how they treat themselves. They believe that if they just try harder, if they just give more, if they just wait long enough, people will recognize their value. But self-respect does not work that way. A man must recognize his own value first, and only then will the world reflect it back to him. The moment a man starts to demand respect, his entire life changes. He stops being an option and becomes a priority. He stops chasing and starts attracting. He stops settling and starts choosing. And once he steps into that level of self-respect, he never goes back, because he realizes that the only person who ever needed to recognize his worth was himself. Confidence is not something a man is born with. It is something he builds. It is forged through action, through overcoming obstacles, through proving to himself that he is capable, valuable, and worthy. A man who lacks confidence will always find himself struggling in life, in relationships, in his career, and in his personal growth. Without confidence, he will hesitate, second-guess himself, and allow fear to dictate his choices. But with confidence, everything changes. He moves with certainty. He speaks with authority. He commands respect without demanding it. The difference between a man who succeeds and a man who stays stuck is not intelligence, talent, or luck. It is confidence. Most men believe that confidence is something external, that it is based on appearance, wealth, or status. They believe that if they just had more money, a better physique, or a higher social standing, they would automatically feel confident. But confidence is not given. It is developed from within. It is the result of self-trust, of knowing that no matter what happens, a man can handle it. A confident man does not need external validation because he validates himself. He does not need constant reassurance because he knows his worth. He does not seek permission to act because he trusts his own judgment. A man who lacks confidence will always struggle with relationships, especially with women. Women do not respond to weakness, hesitation, or self-doubt. They are drawn to certainty, to a man who knows who he is and where he is going. A man who lacks confidence will find himself constantly trying to prove his worth, constantly seeking approval, constantly bending to meet someone else's expectations. This is not attractive. Women do not admire men who need them. They admire men who are whole on their own. A confident man does not chase, he attracts. He does not beg for attention, he commands it. He does not try to convince a woman to like him. He simply presents himself as he is and allows her to make a choice. Confidence is not arrogance. It is not about acting superior, putting others down, or pretending to be something a man is not. True confidence comes from competence. It comes from mastery. It comes from proving time and time again that a man is capable of handling whatever life throws at him. A man cannot fake confidence for long. Eventually, the truth reveals itself. This is why confidence must be earned. It must be built through action, through stepping outside of comfort zones, through facing fears rather than running from them. Many men struggle with confidence because they spend too much time in their own heads. They overthink, they analyze, they hesitate. They allow fear to paralyze them. But confidence is built through doing, not thinking. A man who waits until he feels ready will wait forever. Confidence does not come first. Action does. A man must take risks, must push himself, must step into uncomfortable situations. He must speak up even when his voice shakes. He must approach opportunities even when he feels unqualified. He must face rejection and keep moving forward. With every challenge he overcomes, his confidence grows. With every step he takes, he reinforces the belief that he is capable. A confident man does not fear rejection because he understands that rejection is not a reflection of his worth. It is simply a part of life. He does not take it personally. He does not dwell on what could have been. He does not let it shake his sense of value. He understands that every no is just a step closer to a yes. He does not let temporary setbacks dictate his future. He keeps moving forward knowing that success is inevitable for the man who refuses to quit. A confident man also understands the power of body language. Confidence is not just about what a man says. It is about how he carries himself. A man who walks with his shoulders back, his chest up, and his head held high sends a silent message to the world. I know my worth. But a man who slouches, avoids eye contact, and shrinks into the background sends a different message. I am unsure of myself. The way a man moves, the way he speaks, the way he holds himself, these are all indicators of his confidence, and the world responds accordingly. Confidence is built in every area of life. A man cannot be confident with women, but insecure in his career. He cannot be confident in his career, but unsure of himself physically. Confidence is holistic. It must be developed in all aspects: mental, emotional, physical, and social. A man who takes care of his body, who stays in shape, who presents himself well, who invests in his skills and knowledge, this is a man who naturally radiates confidence. He does not have to try. It is simply who he is. Many men believe that confidence is reserved for the lucky few, for those who were born with natural charisma or advantage, but confidence is a skill, and like any skill, it can be developed. It requires effort, it requires discipline, it requires stepping into the unknown and proving again and again that fear does not control a man. He controls it. Confidence is built through small wins. Every time a man keeps a promise to himself, he builds trust in himself. Every time he sets a goal and achieves it, he reinforces the belief that he is capable. Every time he refuses to back down in the face of adversity, he strengthens his inner resolve. A confident man is unshakable. He does not seek approval because he approves of himself. He does not wait for opportunities, he creates them. He does not fear competition because he knows that there is no competition, only his own potential waiting to be realized. He does not rely on luck because he understands that success is earned. And because he moves through life with certainty, he naturally attracts respect, admiration, and success. A man who lacks purpose is a man who drifts through life, constantly searching for something outside of himself to give him direction. He is easily swayed, easily distracted, and easily controlled because he does not have a foundation of his own. He moves from one situation to another, hoping that something, whether it be a job, a relationship, or a temporary pleasure, will bring him fulfillment. But fulfillment is never found in external things. It comes from within, from having a clear purpose.